ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यं निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिर्वोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यस्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्र्यचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ Verse 73. विज्ञानमयकोशोऽयं जीव इत्यागमा जगुः सर्वसंसार एतस्य जन्मनाशसुखादिकः. So in the first part of analysis of an individual, Tvam Padartha Viveka, Vidyaranya established that every individual is a composite entity consisting of two things. And in that, one is Satyam and other is a Abhasa, Mithya. One is basically a Adhisthana, other is Adhyasa. And so it's a mixture of two, of Satyam and Mithya. But it is inexplicable in a way this, because cannot be mixed. Satya Mithya cannot be mixed together. Satya Mithya cannot have any relationship. So that is how this kind of a composite entity is born of avidya, which is also cannot be explained. And therefore, how can avidya exist? Well, avidya cannot exist because I am avidya, I am jnanam. How can ajnanam exist? And therefore, this kind of question is there. But anyway, so mithya ajnanam is there. Therefore, this mithya adhyasa etc. also is there. And therefore, he pointed out that, one doesn't know, under the spell of this avidya and avaranam, of this kutastha chaitanya, adhara chaitanyam, which is satyam, under the spell of that avidya and avaranam, one doesn't know that I am a mixture of two, and I will be a mixture throughout the prarabdha. It will be a mixture of satyam and mithya. That's how it is. And therefore, basically, so other than, anyway, I have yesterday, that's how I put in that WhatsApp. So just see what has gone by. Suppose if you are a little disturbed with this Kshanika Vijnanavadi, this Kshanika Vijnanam is this Ahankara etc. I cognition is a Kshanika Vijnanam. Anyway, so that is Mithya thing. Then there is Adhishthanam, that my I am is basically a Kutastha Chaitanya. So it's a mixture. That's how he said also, Vijnanamaya Koshoyam Jiva. This jiva is a Vijnanamaya kosha. That's a reality. We say it's not. This jiva is basically composite of two things. It's a mixture. That's what we already analyzed. We are right now talking about the confusions regarding this Tvampada, regarding this I, cognition. In that I cognition, Ajnani feels it is one thing alone, and that is jiva. We say there are two things. It's a mixture. Could you follow what I am saying? And therefore, basically, don't get perturbed. Anyway, we are going to answer. But right now, the approach of a Vedantin is different approach. There are two types of approaches a Vedanti deals with a Purvapaksha. Already I told you also yesterday. One is that every Purvapaksha we refute. Second is we allow the Purvapakshis to fight among themselves. One refute the other. That is refuted by someone else, that is refuted by someone else, and lastly who comes after winning all? We refute them. Could you follow? And therefore, this is the approach right now. You may be feeling, Swamiji, we should answer immediately to this Kshanika Vijnani. Why you were postponing all this? I am not going to answer. But if you are really confused and disturbed, our 57 verses of chapter 6 is sufficient to give you knowledge regarding Tvampada, that is I. Okay? And therefore, we should not be disturbed. Means if we are disturbed by this Kshanika Vijnanam, means if I consider myself as a Jiva, then what to talk about this 57 verses which I already taught you? And therefore, if you want an answer, just refer the previous verses which we have already done. And we have proved also that I cognition has two things, and one is Mithya, one is Satyam. That we have proved also. Thoroughly we have proved. And therefore, if he says Vijnanamaya Koshaha Ayam Jiva, this Jiva is Vijnanamaya Kosha alone, and that's a reality, we should not be disturbed by that. And still we will be answering at the end. Whoever is winning in this debate among the Purvapakshis, we will be answering. Anyway, so this, due to this Mula Vidya and Avaranam, well, I don't know that I am a mixture of two entities. Really speaking, it is one thing alone. Right? But let's say, because we have done an analysis, done a discrimination, and then there is something Mithya and there is something Satyam. Anyway, and so, and regarding this, if you don't analyze it through this Veda, etc., there will be a confusion also. So, because it's a Paramarthika Vastu, which is not available for the Purusha Buddhi, and therefore definitely there will be a confusion if you don't resort yourself or expose yourself to Pramana, and that is Vedanta, etc. So, Veda. And this confusion is there among lay people also, and among the philosophers also. Well, basically the confusion is born of non-thinking, that is a lay person. Confusion born of a thinking. After thinking, after giving it enough thought, yes, still you come to a conclusion which is nothing but a confusion, calling Indriya as Atma, calling Manaha as Atma, calling Prana as Atma, and therefore they are philosophers. So, thoughtful mistake and thoughtless mistake, both the things are there. And it is a mixture. In this world you find both the types of people. So after giving enough thought, etc., well, still there is a mistake. And then we talked about 4 Charvakas, and right now we are dealing with one Buddhist who is also who has a confusion after giving a thought to this, the nature of the self. Still he has come to the conclusion that this Kshanika Vijnanam alone is Atma, not given, because he does not give a Pramanyam to the Veda. If Veda has been given a Pramanyam, and you have thoroughly analyzed, well, about what is the purport of the Veda, then you will not arrive at this conclusion that this Kshanika Vijnanam or I cognition or I consciousness, I knowledge is Atma. You won't say that way. Anyway, so both, and in this, the thinkers, well, among these philosophers also there are two types. One group is called Nastikas, another group is called Astikas. And Vidyaranya has been enumerating this Nastikas first, and that is Dehatmavada, that is all Charvakas, 4 groups of Charvakas are there, and they are Nastikas. Well, we call them as a materialist people. They say Deha alone is Atma. Who gives a Pramanyam to Pratyaksha, not to Veda, not to any other thing. Who says what is perceived alone is the truth. And I perceive that body is Atma, because body is sentient. And you say, well, Atma is a consciousness. Well, body is conscious, and therefore body is Atma. And then, no, there is a distinct Atma from the body, etc. Who has seen it? Who has seen it? Have you seen distinct Atma from the body? No. But then that is not there. So perception alone is a pramana for them. So that's how they will arrive at this conclusion. So after enough thinking, well, they have arrived that this Deha is Atma. Well, no, that is not. Because the sentiency comes and goes in the body. That body does not have a sentiency. And therefore there must be a distinct principle which must be giving sentiency to the body. Right? And therefore, well, that is Indriya is Atma. Indriya gives a sentiency to the body. And then, how How Indriya gives a sentiency to the body? Yeah, you touch here and you feel sentiency. And then touch means what? There is a Tvag Indriya is there, and therefore Indriya is basically Atma. Indriya is Atma. And therefore, when Indriyas are not there, there is no sentience. Like if you lose a sense of touch, where is sentiency? Where is sentiency? Huh? If you don't have a sense of touch anywhere in the body, just think. One Indriya is absent, you can't think of. If that is absent, Tvagindriya is absent, you won't feel sentiency at all. Well, therefore, Indriya is Atma, distinct from the body, and therefore that alone, Indriyas give sentiency to the body. Body is not sentient, that is not Atma. So, basically, the Indriyas give them. Because Indriya is able to see, Indriya is able to hear, therefore they are conscious, and therefore Tvagi Indriya also is a conscious entity. They alone is Atma. No, that is not Atma. So they are fighting. We are sitting in that lazy boy chair. So, taking a cup of tea. Okay? And therefore, and now that other Charvaka, he says, no, prana alone is Atma. Because prana alone ultimately gives, that alone is Atma. Then that was negated. Because why? How can you say prana alone is Atma? Well, because when Indriya is also not there, when mind is not there, if they are resolved, then that person is dead. What do you think? Is he dead in deep sleep state? He is dead. Your Indriyas are absent. Your mind is absent. Everything is absent. Still the person is alive. So no one prepares for a cremation of that person. He is alive. And therefore, definitely, so prana is Atma. That keeps the body alive. That's a sentiency is due to prana alone. And therefore prana is Atma. Well then manaha Atma. No, prana is not Atma. Because Atma is a bhokta, experiencer, right? Experiencer must be conscious entity. And so Atma alone is a conscious entity, you said. Atma means consciousness, you say. So conscious entity is this bhokta. Experiencer must be a conscious entity. Yeah, that must be a conscious entity. So I am experiencer, I am a bhokta. Well, that kind of a cognition, in which state arises? Oh, that is in the dream state and that is in the waking state. In deep sleep state, there is no that kind of a cognition that I am experiencer. Well, so prana is not Atma. Because you say in deep sleep state, only prana is there. Everything has resolved, right? Therefore, if prana is Atma, prana must be bhokta. But then we don't feel any experience in the deep sleep state because the very bhokta is absent there. And therefore, prana is there and bhoktrutvam is not there. And bhokta is Atma and therefore prana is not. Then when this bhoktrutvam arises, when this experiencerhood arises, in a waking state, then in waking state, what is awake? What was not there in deep sleep state and what is there in the waking state? That is mind. That's all. That's what we say. When mind is there, experiencerhood is there. Right? Experiencer, the bhoktrutvam is there when in a waking state and in a dream state. In deep sleep state, when mind resolves, the very bhoktrutvam also resolves. And Atma is a bhokta. And therefore, basically, prana is not bhokta, mind alone is a bhokta. Mind alone is bhokta. Then this Vijnanavadi has come and then he is arguing now. And so, these are these four groups. Indriyatmavadi, Dehatmavadi, Indriyatmavadi, Pranatmavadi and Manatmavadi. Were all thoughtfully did the mistake. Anyway, all four groups come under Charvakas, Nastikas. And when do Buddhists come into picture? Well, Vijnanamaya Kosha, he started with this, Kshanika Vijnanam. Well, and Kshanika Vijnanavada, that is also Nastika because it's a Bauddhas only. They also have a four branch. Yogacharam and Madhyamika and Vaibhashika, etc., etc. So, this from verse 69 to 73, well, this Yogachara or Kshanika Vijnanavada is there. And Vijnanamaya Kosha refers to this consciousness. So, Alaya Vijnanam, eye cognition is there, which is momentary entity, but it is continuously replaced by new Alaya Vijnanam, means new eye cognition. Every moment new eye cognition arises and then there is a flow. That is how it becomes a flow. Like every at a particular point in the river, at every moment a new water comes. Right? I am standing in the river at a particular place, and I feel, oh, it is a continuous flow of water. It's true, but every moment actually there is a new water. But since it is arising continuously, even though every moment there is a new water, but it is continuously arising, so that it looks like flow in a Ganges. Same way, Atma looks, a continuous entity. This I cognition, I feel it is a continuous entity. How can you call it as a Kshanikam? So he said Kshanikam means, but every moment the new Atma arises. So new I cognition arises. For him, that is I cognition is Atma, Kshanika Vijnana. And therefore every moment it is arising. So it looks a continuous entity. Like, well, even if you go to a Ganges and you take bath today, and you will say, I took bath in Ganges. Next day you take bath. Third day you take bath. And you feel it is the same Ganges. It is not same Ganges. It's every moment it is changing, right? But it is, since it is arising every moment you get a new fresh water. And therefore it looks a flow, a continuous entity. Therefore if you argue that I cognition cannot be Kshanikam, because Kshanikam means a momentary. But I feel that I cognition remains throughout. So he says, well, it is continuous. Every moment in new water comes when it is a continuous flow. Same way here also, every moment new I cognition arises, and definitely, and therefore it's a continuous entity. It's a flow. So, and this momentary consciousness, very foolish thing he says is that it knows itself and it knows the object also, naturally. When I cognition arises, idam cognition also arises, which we call mind, etc., manomaya, etc., we discussed yesterday. So, the idam cognition, this cognition comes only when I cognition is there. That's correct. Karan Karya relation, everything I explained you. And that's how he negated manomaya or manaha atma. Mind is not an atma. There is something else because of which this all thing is known as idam. And therefore, well, that's how Vijnanamaya has refuted. He says that I cognition, which is really a conscious entity, and which knows itself and knows every other thing in the world through idam vritti. Well, so definitely this is how this is the second thing he talked about. So Vijnanamaya kosha means I cognition or I consciousness. Second thing is it is momentary, and third thing is it knows itself. They call it as this Buddhist call as a swasambedya rupam, swaprakasha basically. So so this is how he talks. And even though he is a Nastika, does not accept Veda Pramanam, but since he is telling us, so ultimately he quotes Veda in order to create some kind of a trust in what he says. So he says, even Veda talks about that Vijnanamaya is Atma. So, agamaha jaguhu, Vijnanamaya iti agamaha jaguhu. This Vijnanamaya is the Atma. That is, agamaha means Shastra, Veda talks about. And that I have told you, Taittiriya Upanishad, Brahmananda Valli, definitely. Anyantara Atma Vijnanamaya. Okay. So, Anyaha Antaraha Atma Vijnan. Manomaya is there, right? And then after talking about Manomaya, then there is a Anyaha. Other than this Manomaya, Antaraha, which is even Antaraha means which is more proximate, and which is even a cause of Manomaya. That is Vijnanamaya Atma. That's what Veda also says, Brahmananda Valli, Taittiriya Upanishad. And therefore, Buddhist quote that this Vijnanam, which is Kshanika Vijnanam, alone is Atma. And he in second line he says in this verse 73 that Vijnanamaya is a samsari, sarva samsara etasya, this jivasya. This jiva, which is a Kshanika Vijnanam, which is I cognition, well, that alone has entire samsara called, what kind of a samsara? So he says, Janma Nasha Sukhadikaha. Janma and Nasha, birth and death. And Sukhadikaha, Sukha Dukkham, etc. When Sukha Dukkham comes, definitely samsara is there. Sukham. Sukham means an happiness derived from the world. That kind of a Sukham here. not Atma Swarupam, etc. Which is very well, that's a Swarupa, that's not a question here. So samsara is, he talks about samsara, means an attitude of deriving an happiness from the world itself is a samsara. And that is basically due to ultimately avidya alone. Avidya, due to avidya, you take yourself a limited being which you cannot accept, and since all the time you feel lack within, you have a desire to complete that lack, to fulfill that lack, and to fulfill the lack you see outside the objects, and certain objects which you feel that it will fulfill a promise of giving me happiness, etc. And so desire for those objects will arise. So avidya gives rise to kama, desire, and then definitely to gain those objects you have to do some karma, and therefore avidya kama karma is called samsara. And this, so from avidya all the things arises ultimately. And so here sukham is this kind of a sukham which is derived, vishaya sukham, which is derived from the world, etc. That's a ultimate. Bhagavan said very beautifully, but that this Vishaya Sukha is ultimately a dukkham only. And therefore, so yahi samsparshaja bhogaha dukkhayonaya evate. Samsparshajaha. Samsparshaha. By contacting. Sparsha means a contact. So samsparshaha. So by contacting, the senses contact the objects, varieties of the objects. And then due to that contact, definitely a sukha arises. Bhagavan says dukkha yonaya. That is potentially dukkha. Dukkha yoni means that's a karanam. Yoni means karanam. Karanam of dukkha. So it is ultimately, Vishaya Sukha is also nothing but a dukkham only. So that's a samsara. Anyway, so Vijnanamaya is talked about in these verses from 69 to 73, which we have seen. Now, and this Vijnanavada, I have told you, it is very close to Vedanta. And but they say Atma is this eye cognition, and that is Kshanikam, etc. Well, we say Atma is basically Nityam, and it is consciousness. It is not just eye cognition. The very eye cognition, the basis of very eye cognition. Eye cognition is an incidental thing, comes and goes, and therefore there must be something which is a basis for that. That is Atma, and therefore this is the difference between the Vedantin and Kshanika Vijnani. And it, of course, other granthas in Bhashyakara has discussed elaborately and refuted this Kshanika Vijnana, but we right now confined to this much. Anyways, and then this Kshanika Vijnani, and then his brother, now Shunyavada, comes and refutes this Kshanika Vijnana. So it's a fight between two brothers. Okay, there's another branch of Bauddhas. So that is called Madhyamika or Shunyavadi. So let's read it in verse 74. Vijnanam kshanikam atma vidyudabhranimeshavat anyasyanupalabdhatvad shunyam madhyamika jaguhu. Those kshanika vijnanis are yogacharas. These Shunyavadi are called Madhyamikas. So Madhyamikas, jaguhu. So this Shunyavadi declare what? Kshanika Vijnanam, that oh Kshanika Vijnani, well, you are talking about the consciousness which is Kshanikam, which is momentary, like what? He himself gives an example now. You are talking about the consciousness which is momentary like what? Vidyut abra nimeshavat. Vidyut, Vidyut means lightning, momentary. Abram, cloud. Actually, Abram is not just cloud. That's a Megha. And definitely, so Abram means a cloud which has a water, rain-bearing cloud. Because the word Abram indicates that. If you derive that word Abram properly, apaha bibharti iti Abram. Apaha means, apaha is basically jalam. Apa is the second case actually. Second case plural. And this apaha word, which has a meaning called water, it is a Strilinga word actually, and it has just one declension, and that is Nitya Bahuvachananta. It has just plural form, no singular form. So apaha, apaha, adbihi, adbyaha, adbyaha, apam, apsu, these are the forms. And so apaha is the second case. So apaha bibharti, which holds water. So Abram, and that is also momentary. They come and go. In fact, while they are moving, their shape also sometimes, constantly varies also. And so Abram also is momentary. Vidyut means momentary. Nimeshavat, unmesha nimisha. So the flitting of eyelids, it's also momentary. So your consciousness, you call it as a momentary. It is like this. He gives an example. Shunyavadi gives an example. So Atma is a kshanikam, you are saying, whereas I feel that I experience myself as a constant entity. So what you talk, what you say about the kshanika vijnanam is Atma, well, I can't accept. Vidyaranya does not refute here, don't worry about it. Well, because I have told you, Vedanti is sitting right now in one corner, in a lazy boy chair, and he is seeing this fight which is going on. Okay? And then he will lastly enter. Whoever wins, whoever will be the last winner, well, he will come in front of Vedanta, and Vedanta will refute it and becomes world champion. That is how it is. This is like a boxing, in boxing also. How will you become a world champion in boxing? You cannot fight every Tom, Dick and Harry in every street, right? You have to let them fight. And then ultimately whoever comes as a winner, then this fellow fights with that person and becomes world champion. And that is how it is. So this is called Prathama Malla Nyaya. Mallaha means this is a boxer. Prathama Malla Nyaya. So you fight with the first boxer, means the winner of all, and then you become world champion. So this is, Vedanti will become world champion in philosophy like this. Right now he is sitting and taking a coffee. So Shankaracharya has answered, of course, this Shunyavadis and even this Kshanika Vijnanam, etc. Well, at several places it has been refuted. And Shunyavadi also does not give any argument against this Kshanika Vijnanam. So you say that this consciousness is a continuous flow. It comes and goes, comes and goes, comes and goes. So our question, he says, Shunyavadi says to Kshanika Vijnanam, our question is, when any one particular consciousness, right, Kshanika Vijnanam number 1, Kshanika Vijnanam number 2, Kshanika Vijnanam number 3. So he says, when any particular Kshanika Vijnanam is there, then 2, 3, 4, number 1 is there, this 2, 3, 4 are not there. And therefore, any fleeting consciousness, you say, well, that fleeting consciousness knows itself. Fine. Let's accept it. And that fleeting consciousness, the particular number 1, let's say, knows itself. But it cannot know the second one. It cannot know the third one. Why? Because it will arise, knows itself, but then dies. Then second one arises, knows itself and dies. So there is no single momentary consciousness which knows other momentary consciousness. So how can you talk about a flow? How can you talk about a flow? That there is a flow of several momentary consciousness. How can you talk? How can you talk? Because that particular consciousness, number 1, let's say, Kshanika Vijnanam number 1, that I cognition number 1, well, it arises and dies. Then so it cannot know the other are there or not. Then how can you talk about that there is a flow? And therefore, basically, you can talk about a flow. Forget about the Kshanika Vijnanam. I come back to again this example of Ganges. You can tell that at a particular point in the river, constantly a new water is coming. When you can say? When you are on the shore? Or distinct from that? Ganges itself cannot say that, well, I am in a form of a flow, because that particular water which comes at a particular point, it comes there and goes. It doesn't know that there is a flow. Could you follow what I am saying? There is a flow. Every moment new water coming at a particular place. Who says that? One who is distinct from this flow. From this flow. Could you follow? There is a flow to say that one should be distinct from that particular water. Who is distinct from that? He can tell now at this moment, this particular moment means at a time T1, a particular water comes. Time T2, another water comes. Time T3, another water comes. Right? So the one who says must be distinct from this water alone can say that there is a continuous flow like this. Otherwise, you cannot say. And therefore, he says, well, he is arguing. Shunyavadi argues against this Kshanika Vijnanam. So in Kshanika Vijnanam, there is actually no pramanam, because that momentary consciousness cannot say that there is a flow. There are many more like me, other consciousnesses are coming. He cannot say, because it arises, knows itself and dies, and the next consciousness arises and dies, and therefore there is a flow, cannot be told by the Kshanika Vijnana, particular Kshanika Vijnana, number 1 or number 2, whatever. Could you follow what I am saying? And therefore there must be a distinct entity which can tell that there is a continuous flow. Like a person can say that, there is a flow of a fresh water every moment. Anyway, so for Kshanika Vijnanam, there is no pramanam regarding the flow or a continuous consciousness, etc. And this, if you want to see, just by the way, in Upadesa Sahasri, Bhashyakara deals with this particular Kshanika Vijnanavadi in chapter number 16. Anyway, so question is, if that is not Atma, okay, Kshanika Vijnanam is not Atma, then what is Atma? What is Atma? Because he is a Shunyavadi. So between two Kshanika Vijnanam, he says between two Kshanika Vijnanam, whatever, a very small gap is there. That gap which is permanently available, and it is an emptiness in which this Kshanika Vijnanam rises and dies. And so that between two Kshanika Vijnanam, you are able to see that gap. That gap is there, in which there is nothing, in which the Kshanika Vijnanam arises and dies, and again that gap is seen. And then again Kshanika Vijnanam arises from that gap and dies. That is Atma. There is nothing in that. That gap in which there is nothing, Shunyam, that is the basis from which even the Kshanika Vijnanam arises and dies. The Shunyam is Atma. Not this your Kshanika Vijnanam is Atma. So that in that gap, in that there is basically, there is nothing. That nothingness out of which this Kshanika Vijnanam arises and dies. Anyasya Anupalabdhatvat, anything other than Kshanika Vijnanam is, anything else other than this Kshanika Vijnanam is not experienced by us in that gap, and therefore there is nothingness is there, and that alone is the basis. So Shunyam alone is there. So Shunyam iti madhyamikaha jaguhu. So basically this Shunyam is a basis even in which this Kshanika Vijnanam arises. If the eye cognition arises, and eye cognition arises, then idam cognition so also arises. So subject object all arises, and then you experience yourself also, and you experience world also. But then the basis basically is this gap, and that gap means nothingness. In that gap there is nothingness, we can see very well, from which all this arises, subject object, and he says it is in your experience. It's your experience. How? Well, in a deep sleep state, the subject and object both are resolved. What is there? Shunyam. So, that is what I am saying. So when you wake up, the very eye cognition arises, and then idam, this cognition arises, everything arises, when all resolve, and then there is Shunyam. That is what we experience in deep sleep state, and therefore that is basically the basis. That's the truth. That is Atma. And so he says it is not only supported by this logic, and your experience also, but it is supported by Shruti Pramana also. Shruti talks about the Shunyam is Atma. Yeah. Why you are making your eyebrows? You are raising your eyebrows. Why you are doing? Your Shruti only talks. Where? Well, he says in Taittiriya Upanishad, Brahmanand Valli asadva idamagra asit. Asadva idamagra asit tato vai sadajayat tadatmanagam swayama kuruta. And so asadva idamagra asit. Idam, this world, agre, before the creation, asat asit. It was this whole creation which you are saying right now, and including subject object both, definitely. Without subject you cannot experience the world. Jagat, idam. So subject object both, basically before the creation was asat, was non-existent, and therefore everything has come from the non-existent. That non-existent is called asat, is called shunya. You understand that? He is telling to Vedanta. He is fighting with the Kshanik Vijnani, but looking at us. We are sitting in the corner, but he is looking at us, and and becoming very happy. Look at that. So, well, shunyam. Yes, shunyam is the Atma. Everything has come from that. That's the basis. So, tato vai sadajayata. From that alone, tatah, from that alone, tasmat karanat. So, asatah, vai means prasiddhi, sad ajayata. So, all over whatever you are seeing existent, subject and object, both you are seeing right now as existent entities, they have come from that asat. And therefore, shunyam is adhishthanam, and shunyam is the satyam of this creation. Shunyam is the satyam of you also, there is a subject. Shunyam is the satyam of this object also, because it has come from that shunyam, which is adhishthanam. And well, I have told you also, you regularly experience when you go to deep sleep state, subject object both resolve. There is nothingness in the deep sleep state, and therefore, well, shunyam is the basis of even kshanika vijnana, and that's adhishthan, that is satyam, that is atma, not your kshanika vijnana which comes and goes also from that adhishthan now, because arises from that shunyam and goes back into that shunyam only, and that you are able to experience in the gap between. Okay, and so, or else you experience in deep sleep state. So, asat eva idam ityadau. Asat eva idam means the Taittiriya Upanishad Vakyam, he is quoting like that. Iti adau. So there is some other statement also in some other Upanishad which says that, well, the whole creation has come from asat, from shunya. Somewhere else. Where? In Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Well, in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the 1-2, it says, Naiveha agre kinchana asit. Agre. Srushte prak. Before the creation. Na asit. Na asit. Kinchana asit. There was nothing before the creation. Means what? Shunya. So na eva iha. Well, in this world, which was not there. Kinchana. Kinchana means, not even an iota was there before the creation. Means what? Shunya. So not only Taittiriya Upanishad talks about, Brahmananda Valli talks about the shunyam is the adhishthanam or satyam of the whole creation, but even Brihadaranyaka Upanishad also talks about. So ityadau. So asadva idamagra asit, that is Taittiriya Upanishad, and adi means etc. Etc. means you have to give some other statement which says that shunyam is the adhishthanam of the creation. That is Atma, and that is Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So, here nothing was there before the creation. That statement is there in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Shankaracharya ji enters a very big discussion, and that discussion is very famous among the circle, Vedantic circle. It is called Ghata Bhashyam. And that is a huge Bhashyam. Ghata Bhashyam. He takes an example of a pot and clay and refutes this shunyam. Anyway. So, that Bhashyam is called, anyway, so this is Ghata Bhashyam, and here now he says, Idameva Shutam. So, you see here, basically he says that, Anyasya, I'm sorry, and so, Asadeva idamam ityadau, idameva Shutam tatah. I think we have not read that, verse 75. Asadeva midam ityadau, idameva Shutam tatah. Jnanagneyaatmakam sarvam jagad bhranti prakalpitam. So asadeva ityadu means that Taittiriya Upanishad statement, and Adipadat you can take that Brihadaranyaka statement. Idameva shutam. Idam means this darshanam alone, that shunyam is Atma, that alone is shutam, that alone is there in the Veda, in the Shruti, and tatah, and therefore everything is ultimately shunyam. Ultimately means whatever is see is a mithya, but the adhishthanam is shunyam. So, the shunyam is adhishthanam. Then what about the whole creation? Well, everything else is mithya. How? Where he has said? it is in the second line. Jnana Gneyatmakam Sarvam Jagat Bhranti Prakalpitam. So Sarvam Jagat, the entire world, well, basically Bhranti Kalpitam means Mithya. Everything is, see, this is the difference between Shunyavadi and us. Let me tell you this. Jagat Bhranti Kalpitam, Vedanti also says. Shunyavadi also says. But Sarvam Jagat Bhranti Kalpitam, even though we say and he also says, the difference is this. Sarvam includes everything. How can you say includes everything? Everything means what? Because Jagat includes Jnanam and Gneyam. Jnana Gneyatmakam. So Jagat has two things basically. One is Chetanam, one is Achetanam. And therefore, Chetan, Achetan, everything. All Mithya. And therefore, Shunyam alone is Adhisthana. We say no. Jagat Bhranti Kalpitam. But that consciousness which is seen, Chetanam is Satyam. Achetanam is Mithya. They say Chetan, Achetan, everything. That's how he says here in the second line. Jnana Gneyatmakam Sarvam. Jnanam, a conscious being, a conscious entity. So, because world consists of Jnanam and Gneyam. And so, world consists of a knower, which is a sentient entity, and Gneyam, which is known. So, known means this all material, or the Jadam. That's how it gets a category. Gneyam, the world gets a category as a known, because it cannot know itself. It is known by somebody. Yeah, the known has come that it cannot know itself. And therefore, known means known by somebody. By somebody means what? By a conscious being, knower. So here, Jnanam is equal to Jnata. Word Jnanam is Jnata. So Jnata Gneyatmakam Jagat. The world which is in the form of a knower and known. Everything Mithya. We say no. Knower is Mithya, but there is a basis there. That conscious being, right? Knower, that Ahankara, etc., which is the Jiva or Abhasa Chaitanyam, has a basis as in Kutastha. And therefore, the consciousness cannot be Mithya. That's a Satyam. Other than that, what is known is Mithya. And Shunyam means what? He has to negate even the conscious being also. Because Shunyam is non-existent. And therefore, he says, Chetan, Achetan, everything is Mithya, which has a basis in Shunyam. We say Chetanam is a basis, Adhisthana of Achetanam. That's the difference between us and Shunyavadi. So, this is Madhyamikas, Buddhist. Let's go to verse 76. Niradhisthana vibhrantehe abhavadatmanostita shunyasyapi sasakshitvad anyatha noktirashyate. So we have dismissed, I'm taking an account, we have dismissed 4 groups of Charvaka, right? So Dehatmavada, and then Indriyatmavada, and then Pranatmavada, and then Manatmavada, and then Shunyavada. All Nastikas, Vijnanatmavada, 5, and Shunyavadi also now. So 6 philosophers thought, the people who are thinkers, but basically after thinking also they are confused, thoroughly confused, those people. And that's how they are called philosophers. Philosophers means a confused people after thinking, after giving a lot of deliberation, still they come at the wrong conclusion. That's how it is. Many people are there. In fact, many thinkers in this world, other than this all our known philosophers, many people are there and good, they are intelligent people. And after a lot of deliberation and thinking, what they arrive at is a wrong conclusion. And they live their life in that delusion only. So anyway, this all Nastikas, 4 groups of Charvaka, and then these 2, Madhyamikas and Yogachara, means Kshanika Vijnani and Shunyavadi. 6 Nastikas are over. And that group is over, right? And they don't accept this Veda Pramana. Basically, when I talk about Darshana, always I say 6 Nastika Darshanam and 6 Astika Darshanam. But 6 Nastika Darshanam, in which I talk, Charvaka is basically as just one entity. I don't divide into 4, but Vidyaranya divides into 4. I take it other way. So, Charvaka is a one, Nastika. who believes only in pratyaksha, and therefore for him there is no punya baba, there is no swarga, there is no atma, there is no ishvara, nothing, because you cannot prove by perception. So it is not there. Okay. So one is a Charvaka, other is this Jaina. Jainas are also basically Nastika. They don't believe in Veda. Veda is a Pramana. Anyway. And then 4 Buddhists. I divide like this. Vidyaranya divides a little differently here. 4 groups of Charvakas and 2 Buddhists. Madhyamikas and Yogachara. Kshanika Vijnani and Shunyavadi. Now that group is over. Now we should turn to Astikas. There also, that confusion is there. After, definitely, they quote, after deliberating the Shastra also, they have arrived at the wrong conclusions. They are Astikas. So now Vedika group, which are confused people, so they don't know how to extract Veda. They don't know. How to see the purport of the Veda, they are not able to do. And therefore they have arrived at a wrong conclusion. And what they say, I am taking one group now, who says Anandamaya is Atma. Not even Vijnanamaya. Right? Vijnanamaya is Atma, that is a Buddha. And he also quote that Brahmanandali. Now this group, who says Anandamaya is Atma, and refutes Vijnanamaya is Atma, they refute that, Buddhist, branch of Buddhist. They are whom? Basically they are Nayayikas and Mimamsakas. They are Astikas actually. They give a pramanyam to Veda. That's how Astika. And they say Anandamaya is Atma. So again that is a confusion, right? And so, first, what is their first job? They have to refute that Shunyavadi. The Shunyavadi who has refuted Kshanika Vijnani and has won, he has a title and he is holding that trophy, and this person goes there and says, you give it me, that trophy belongs to me. No, I won't give. No, then have a Shastrartha with me, and then there is a debate. So he has to refute that Shunyam is a adhisthana of the creation. Asat is a adhisthana of creation, he has to refute. Then only he can get that that title. So he says, Niradhisthana, very beautiful. Niradhisthana vibrantehe abhavat. So you can't say everything is mithya. Because by definition, mithya borrows existence from satyam. You say everything subject object, while right now whatever we are seeing, well, ultimately everything has come from asat, and that is everything has come from shunyam, and what you are seeing is all mithya. So but that mithya thing basically cannot stand on its own. Mithya is a mithya because it borrows existence from satyam. Everything borrows existence, whatever is there in form of subject object, and so therefore what borrows existence from that adhisthana must have an existence. Like they say, these brahmacharis and this vanaprastha and sannyasi all live on alms, right, on bhiksha. Then somebody has to give bhiksha. These all borrow money, borrow annam. Not borrow, but let's say they take annam from whom? Grihastha, right? And therefore, Grihastha gives bhiksha to all the 3, brahmacharis and vanaprastha and sannyasis. And one day this Grihastha got fed up. Well, every day I have to cook. For me it is okay. But for all these people, useless people, they don't do anything, they don't contribute in society, nothing. These brahmacharis also at the time seeing books and reading and memorizing and all this. And this vanaprastha also sitting all the time like this. And this sannyasi keeps moving here and then talking something and then sleeping. And therefore, all the people I have to feed. I am tired of that. Then what is the solution? Because they will come to your door, all the 3. Let me go for a bhiksha. And so I stop cooking from today. So I will also go for bhiksha. If you go for bhiksha, then who will give bhiksha to these brahmacharis and other? Could you follow? So that is the situation. If everything borrows in the creation, subject, object borrows existence, from that asat, then asat should have the existence to give them, and therefore asat means shunyam, and then shunyam should be existent. Shunyam is non-existence. Non-existence should be in the form of existence. What is this? What is this? Non-existence is existence, and that he should have abundant existence, right? It should have abundant, because all this whole creation, every moment something is coming up. Every moment something is coming. I'm talking to you right now, several children have been born. So, and so many things must have happened. Every moment creation is there. So, whole thing borrows existence, means that your shunyam must be very rich in existence. Shunyam is non-existence. Non-existence is very, very rich in existence. What is this? What is this? Eh? What is this? Yeah, that's correct. Niradhisthana vibrantehe abhavat. Niradhisthana vibrantehe. So, you said this jnanam jnayatmakam jagat mithya. Well, you said like that, the creation which is in the form of knower and known, sentient, insentient world, is mithya. Then definitely that mithya definitely borrows existence from your asat, that is shunyam, and that is not possible. So what lends existence is satyam, and why can't we have the shunyam as adhisthana who lends existence to the entire jagat? If shunyam lends existence to the mithya prapancha, entire jagat, then the shunyam exists or not? Shunyam must exist to lend existence to the entire jagat, and if shunyam has an existence, then where is shunyam? And so it does not have existence. If you say like that, it is not correct. Then if it is non-existent, who lends existence to the entire prapancha? So, it's like saying, how can I give a charity if I don't have money? So if everybody comes to you for money, you should have money. And therefore, definitely same way, the whole creation comes to you for existence, then you must have an existence. And then shunyam have an existence means what? And so, to avoid problems that shunyam has existence, it is lending existence to prapancha. It is no more a shunyam. It must be sadvastu. It must be sadvastu. And so, if you tell that sat means existence, it should have abundant existence. By nature, it must be existence, to lend existence to everything, to the entire mithya prapancha. That adhishthanam must have existence in abundance, means by nature it must be existence, and that is, by nature it is existence. By nature it cannot be non-existence, called shunyam. And therefore, if you want to say that sat is shunyam, we don't mind it. And that shunyam, but basically that is shunyam here, it must be a bhava padartha. So, and in this, on that existence of that adhisthana, entire adhyasa prapancha appears. So, in every adhyasa, that adhishthanam is all there. In every mithya thing, the satyam is right there. Right? Klipis, etc. We have seen that. The isness is basically borrowed from sadvastu. So, you can't have this mithya world without satya adhishthanam, which is in the form of existence, called sat. So, this is an answer given by these astikas, nayayikas, and this mimamsakas, etc. And they are answering to, refuting shunyavada, and that is what he says here. So, very beautiful law. Niradhisthana vibrantehe abhavat. There is no false superimposition without real adhisthana. So, Atma cannot be asat, it must be satvastu only. Asat means shunyam, it cannot be that, it must be satvastu. So, Atmanaha astita, isness. Asti means is. Astita, isness. Atmanaha astita. Atma must be a positive, existent entity. Means satvastu. Wait a minute. Then why your Upanishad is talking asatva idamagra asit? The whole creation has come from asat. You say whole creation's adhishthanam is Sat, and Upanishad says whole creation adhishthanam is Asat. How will you resolve now? Whether you are right or the Upanishad is right, please tell us. If you say you are right, you are no more a Vedantin. Yeah, for you Veda is a Pramana. So, well, you say the adhishthanam is Sat, not Shunyam. Fine. But then what about the Upanishad statement? And that is Brihadaranyaka Upanishad statement and Taittiriya Upanishad statement. And so Asadva idamagra asit, Shankaracharya ji analyzes in a great detail. Asat means avyaktam, unmanifest. Wait a minute. Well, unmanifest means no, but here Asat means non-existent. Yeah, unmanifest is as good as non-existent. That's what we have already discussed with the example. If I give example of a butter again, you will not like it, I know. So I will give another example today. Because he has brought butter. Okay, I will tell something else. The electricity is there as unmanifest in the water. Right? If you know that electricity is there in the water, you won't touch water. But you are touching water. Means what? For you, the electricity is non-existent in water. It is not non-existent, sir. It is potentially there, and through turbine they generate electricity not from the air, they generate electricity from the water. That's how they do. And therefore, but if you know the electricity is unmanifest, but if you experience that electricity, suppose you will not touch water, but for you that electricity which is unmanifest is non-existent for you, and therefore whatever is unmanifest is as good as non-existent, not non-existent, as good as non-existent. Several examples are there. Several. What is unmanifest cannot be experienced, and therefore it is considered as non-existent, considered as good as non-existent. And therefore Asat has been told, not that really from non-existent or a Shunyam the world has come, but from the unmanifest the creation has come. From the unmanifest to the manifest is called creation. The manifest to the unmanifest is called resolution. And therefore basically from the to say Asat means unmanifest, well, this is from the unmanifest the whole creation has come. But what is that unmanifest? Give us some proper word. This unmanifest means what? Maya. The whole creation which is unmanifest or which is there potentially in the Brahman is called Maya. That alone is a Maya, nothing else. Don't think from Maya is there non-separate from Brahman. And from the Maya, things are coming and arising. And Brahman is just supporting. Don't think that way. So, whole creation becomes unmanifest. That unmanifest alone is Maya. Where? You have told before? I have told you several times. Maya is called Avyaktam. I have already told you. Avyakrutam. Maya is called Prakriti. All names I have explained you also before. So, Avyaktam means Maya. So, whole creation which is unmanifest has become manifest. Means from the Maya alone the whole creation has come. What was unmanifest has become manifest. Anyway, but in unmanifest state, since it is not available for transaction, it is considered as good as non-existent. What is not available for transaction is considered as good as non-existent. Don't think it is non-existent, it is there, but unmanifest. So not available for transaction, any kind of a transaction, it is not available. Like a bird, a baby bird in the egg is totally unmanifest. You will find just, if the egg breaks, you will find just liquid, little bit. You don't find anything. So totally unmanifest, not available for transaction. So as good as non-existent. So not only this argument, this our Astika friends are doing to Shunyavadi, he says something else also. So he says you can't talk about non-existent at all. You can never talk about non-existent. So non-existent is basically, well, non-existent. Non-existent is non-existent. Well, basically that is what the reality is, because there is nothing. You can we vehemently argue actually that there is nothing called nothingness. To prove existence of a nothingness, well, to say that there is nothingness, you require some existent entity. To require that's a second argument, and that is the clinching argument. That directly takes you to the Sakshi. That directly takes you to the Sakshi. To say that there is nothing, you require an existence. To say there is non-existent, total, atyanta bhavaha, that is totally non-existent. Even to say that, to have the concept of that, to experience that, you require an existent entity. To say that there is no TV in this room, definitely an existent person is required. To say TV is there in the room, a person is required. To say TV is not there in the room, a person is required. Bhava and abhava, both existent, non-existent. Bhava, bhava, padartha, existent, non-existent objects cannot be proved independently unless an existent entity called witness of that existence or witness of a non-existence will be always there. So therefore, you can't talk about this bhava bhava as such. Both require sakshi. And when a person, like this, I just remembered that when a person, in a meditation, suppose he says that I have removed all the thoughts, my head is totally empty now. Then you ask a question, how do you know that there is nothing in your head right now? He says, well, I don't experience anything. Yeah, but that I is already existent there. I don't experience anything. So that's how I say nothing is there. So, well, I, the conscious entity, is very much there to experience, and then later say also that I have no thoughts in my mind. And therefore, that sakshi, which is there, even to prove the non-existence, must be there. That's an existent entity. So basically, but then that witness also goes away. Just think. Witness also goes away. Hey, you require another witness to say that there is no witness now. Okay? And therefore, you will bring a sakshi number 2 now. And well, that sakshi also is negative. Well, then you have to bring that another witness to negate that second number, sakshi number 2. Sakshi can never be negated. A negator of all the negation can never be negated. That is satyam. Which cannot be negated is satyam. And that sakshi, a conscious entity which experiences and says, that is chit, that alone is sat, that can never be negated. Sat alone is chit, chit alone is sat. That's the reality of a person. Anyway, so basically, to talk about a sakshi, bhava also requires a sakshi, and so shunyasyapi, well, even nothingness is possible. Sasakshitvat, even nothingness is possible only in presence of a sakshi. Sasakshi means sakshi sahitam. Along with the sakshi, you can say there is nothing now. There is shunya. And so, anyatha, suppose if you say that there is no sakshi even for a shunyam, then shunyam cannot be experienced, cannot be known. You cannot invent the word shunyam. When I say word shunyam, you are able to appreciate it, just because it's a matter of an experience for everyone. And therefore, so unless you have an object, how can you, how can you coin the word shunyam? So basically, therefore, na uktihi asyate, asya, shunyasya, tava shunyasya na uktihi. Your shunyam, basically, or you cannot talk about. Or uktihi means a talking, saying. Na uktihi, you cannot talk about shunyam unless it has been experienced by Atma, which is there. And therefore, shunyam cannot be Atma. To say that there is there is shunyam as adhisthana, well, definitely you require sakshi. That alone is Atma. That's a conscious entity, even to experience a non-existence. And therefore, well, Shunyam is not Atma. Okay? And then in verse 77, he says, what is Atma? We are not seeing, this is all going on. This is going on between them. You may say, oh, Vedantin has jumped into that. No. Still we are witness. We are really witness of the whole fight. Anyway, and we will come at the end. Now, he says Shunyam is not Atma. Then he is asking, what is Atma? So now this person, Astika, this Nayayikas and Mimamsakas answering. Anyo vijnanamayatah mayatah anandamaya antarah astityevopalabdhavyah iti vaidika darshanam. So Shunyavadi helplessly admits a mistake and asks a question that if you say all Vadas are wrong, then what is Atma? Because you have refuted in everything has been refuted. So ultimately, well, iti vaidika darshanam. Vidyaranya says this is look into the Veda. What is Atma? For that you should look into the Veda. And what is that Atma which Veda describes? Anandamaya is Atma. Your Vijnanamaya, Swamiji, you were talking about Shunyavadi. Yeah, Shunyavadi had refuted that and Shunyam is not Atma, that is okay. Now we are saying, we are going ahead. Vijnanamaya is Atma, that's what he said. Because he said, well, Manomaya is Atma, then afterwards he said, Anyaha Antaraha Atma. Right? Anyontar Atma Vijnanamaya, that's how the Brahmananda Valli says. So he has arrived at Vijnanamaya as Atma. So we are going now further. We are saying, we means this, our Astika friends, they are saying this Anandamaya is a Atma. So, which is distinct from this Vijnanamaya, Anyaha. Vijnanamayataha Anya. Distinct from the Vijnanamaya, distinct from this Kshanika Vijnanam, and distinct from the Shunyam. Well, definitely there is a distinct, Anandamaya Atma. And that's a Vedic statement is there. Anyaha Antaraha Anyontar Atma Anandamaya. Right? After Vijnanamaya it comes. So Anyaha means distinct from the Vijnanamaya, Antaraha, well, which is interior to the even Vijnanamaya, which is even the essence of the Vijnanamaya, is this Anandamaya. And that is okay, Anandamaya is there. But how do you call Atma? We are not saying. Taittiriya Upanishad says, Anyontar Atma Anandamaya. Vijnanamaya distinct from the, Anyam is distinct from the Vijnanamaya, and Antarha, essence of even Vijnanamaya, and that is Atma is Anandamaya. And therefore, and this view is held by these Nayayikas and Vaisheshikas and our Mimamsakas, that Anandamaya is Atma. And this is supported by Shruti Pramanam that I have already told you, Taittiriya Upanishad, Brahmananda Valli. And this Shruti Vakya refutes Vijnanavada, Kshanik Vijnanavada also. And Shunyavada is negated how? You have not mentioning. We can tell that. But when Vidyaranya says in the second line, Asti ityeva upalabdhavyaha iti Katha Upanishad 2:3:30. Asti ityeva upalabdhavyaha asti, 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 asti. Atma is understood in the form of asti. Where? Everywhere. Everywhere means what? In the form of a knower, in the form of a known. Everywhere this asti is there. Asti is Atma. That's all. But knower now doesn't say that I is. Asti means is. Astita means isness. But is doesn't go with I. No problem. Something else. That's a problem of a grammar. I am, you will say. And he is, she is, it is. That am indicates existence. Is, are, etc. indicates existence. And therefore a subject and object. First person, second person, third person. Whatever they are there, that is Jagat. First person, second person, third person is Jagat. You add all the three. Is Jagat, subject and object. Are there object in front? That is second person. Object in not in front to this lower. Object now is not in front to the first person. Well, definitely it is third person. Whatever it is, the isness is there, which is all pervading. That is Atma. Okay? So, Shunyam is not Atma. You said the Shunyam is Adhisthana of the entire creation. and then, well, and the whole creation is mithya. But mithya borrows existence from the satyam, and therefore satyam must be what? Must be having existence. Then only it can lend existence to everything. And then, well, definitely. So asti 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 iti atma iti vaidika darshanam. Well, and so Shruti says Shunyam is not Atma, Anandamaya is Atma, etc. Taittiriya Upanishad and Kathopanishad. Both, Kshanik Vijnanam is negated and Shunyavada is also negated. So, this is the seventh one, right? Seventh one is Astika. Four Charvakas, two Bauddhas, Kshanik Vijnani and Shunyavadi, all Nastika. And this one, Nayayika, Vaisheshika and Purvamimamsa. These philosophers, they say Anandamaya is Atma. After a lot of deliberation and arguments with all these people, what he has arrived at is still a problem. Anandamaya is Atma. That's not the reality. It's a confusion. We will see that in the next class. Actually, till this point, we have discussed the identification of Atma. Identification means what is Atma? And regarding that, how many confusions are there? We have discussed. Now our topic is the dimension. Now our topic or the discussion regarding dimension or the size of Atma. There also there is a confusion. Somebody is going to say it is very, very, subtle. Somebody says it is madhyama parimana. It's of the size of the body. Somebody says it is all pervading. Well, we will see. Atma is a anu parimana hai, madhyama parimana hai, or vipu parimana hai. That is the discussion now will be there. We will see that in the next class. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.